Welcome. This is NTA Tuesdaylive and I'm Cyril Stober. Tonight we'll beam our searchlight on women in development for nation building. This is against the backdrop of the International Women's Day observed on every 8th of March to reflect on their aspirations, challenges and progress. And we'll walk into the day, that's metaphorically speaking, in the course of this discussion. Now, analysts say in this part of the globe, the likes of the late Gambo Sawaba, Funmilayo Ransom Kuti, Margaret Epo fought against all odds for women's emancipation. Of note in the group struggle is the Aba Women's Riot of 1929 as part of gaining freedom from colonial dominance. Now, what have been the developmental strides over the years? What are the challenges in breaking even? What is in place to address disparities in employment and economic empowerment? And how can women's participation in politics be changed? How much attention is given to gender equality, equity, mainstreaming, and inclusion? These are some of the issues we'll be looking at tonight, right after this background report by Talatu Ezerike.
Globally, the narratives as it relates to women cut across issues of poor representation in governance, disparities in education, employment, and economic empowerment. The issues that have taken center stage since the early 90s to focus on women internationally by setting aside a day to celebrate women. It got more backings from the United Nations in 1975, which led to the entrenchment of policies and programs for women's advancement.
During the independence, it was like encouraging us, seeing people like the Queen Elizabeth, coming to attend to people. So it was like, oh, so women can also be there. And today it's like, oh, we now know that we have those potentials that it takes to be where men are.
I can remember Hajia Gambo Sawaba. She was almost killed because of women. Madam Ransom Kuti, they were not interested in money. They wanted something for the women. And Mrs. Sekbo, Margaret Ekbo, she was in England for the independence. There wasn't something so that more women will join politics and have a say in the government.
In Nigeria, the women, resilient, dogged and enterprising, constitute about half of the nation's population, for which a good percentage reside in rural areas and faced with challenges that include poverty, lack of access to land or capital, poor labor and neglect. The topmost concern is gainful women empowerment.
Mr. President, appreciating the role Nigerian women played, said 1.6 should be set aside for women to be piloted in 8 states. When the next allocation of JIP money comes, we remove another 1.8, exclusive for women. When another one comes, we remove 1.8 and we continue removing 1.8 until all the women in the 36 states and FCT get the fund.
Apart from teaching skills and vocations, we introduce literacy classes, even if it is how to ensure that the skill they have learned in implementing their business, they need to have a record of what they are doing. That has also opened them up to take interest in their children's education.
Analysts say a lot more needs to be done to upscale Nigerians' low gender equality profile, particularly in politics, to compete favorably with countries like Rwanda and South Africa that has 50 to 60% representation in governance.
We are asking for more. Allow more women to participate in politics. More of them. How many of them contested this election? About 20-something. How many actually won? Is it wrong for any political party to say that we are standing firm by this woman and we are standing firm to the end?
Give women a chance. And for women also to make sure that the chance they have in their hands, they utilize very well. I'm not saying they should be discriminatory, but for God's sake, the men that are being voted in are also voted in by women.
But how enabling is the environment to achieving a 50-50 by 2050 for women?
Coming from Anambra State, knowing the culture, knowing the reticence of the people against having women in that kind of leadership position, did not deter me, did not make me say, well, they will not give me. I did.
If it's violence in the field, where talks beat up a woman because of her political leaning or affiliation, the law will also take its course on that area. If it's a thug, the law will get at the thug. If it is a political actor, the same. If it is a citizen, it will get to the person just like any other person.
There should be Gender Equal Opportunities Commission. That's what other countries have, instead of just the federal character that has not favored us women.
So with the 2017 International Women's Day theme, Be Bold for Change, many say is a clarion call to overcome the challenges to consolidate on gains for women. Talati Ezerike, NTA News.
Well, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guest. We'd like to welcome to this program tonight a former Deputy Governor of Plateau State, Mrs. Pauline Talen. We welcome you to this program.
Thank you, Cyril.
Well, just to say that she also holds the national honor of Officer of the Order of the Federal Republic. Let me also welcome tonight to this program Dr. Otive Buzo, human rights activist. He is a member of the UN Secretary General's Network of Men Leaders to End Violence Against Women. Dr. Ibuzo, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Cyril.
We're also joined tonight by Priscilla Chapa, Executive Director, Women Environmental Program. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Cyril.
And joining us from our Lagos Network Center is Professor Oluremi Shonaya, who's National Chairman of COA Party and a former presidential flag bearer. She joins us from our Lagos studio. Professor Shonaya, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, but just a quick correction. I'm not the national chairman of COA Party, please.
Okay. You ceded that position some time ago, right?
I was the National Public Relations Officer of COA Party.
We stand corrected. Thanks for joining us. Right, and as we always do on this program, we acquaint you with the procedure. At the appropriate time, you can get to join in the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be on air. We encourage you to take advantage of them. However, for those who will be phoning in, we always say this every week. When your call gets through, do us a favor, just reduce the volume of your TV set. Turn down the volume, and that's the way to avoid a hurlback or an echo. Okay, and the best way to know your call has been passed through is that your name will appear on screen. Now, once you find your name on screen, it means your call has been passed through to the studio, it's been taken, and just go right ahead and ask your question or make a comment. And we encourage you to go straight to the point. Don't bother about all the greetings. Just go straight to the point. Ask a question or make a comment, and our guests will address such issues as you might raise. Once again, welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. Let's begin to look at the contributions of women in national development as Nigeria marks International Women's Day. We can look at Nigerian women today and say, this is just how much they have contributed to national development. Let's begin the discussion on that note.
Thank you very much, Cyril. I'm sure you'll agree with me that women have played a very, very vital role in national development. At every angle you look at it, at the home front, the women, they nurture the children, they ensure not just the children, even the men. The husbands are, in fact, the firstborn in the family because they need more attention than even the children. So the mother coordinates, she prepares the husband, she prepares the children for all activities of the day before she sets out. Women have played very significant role in farming, in economic activities, go to the market, virtually everything, the market women play a very, very vital role. In our churches, in the mosque, wherever, women have made their mark. And there's virtually no field today that you can say that women have not made their mark. We have women lawyers, we have women engineers, we have women pilots, all fields with women politicians, and they have made their mark. It's simply unfortunate that despite all the efforts they've put in, it has not been fully compensated compared to their contribution, particularly in the area of politics.
Thank you. All right, we'll look at those those factors responsible for that. But let's find out from Dr. Iguzo. What's your opinion about the role Nigerian women have played in national development?
Thank you very much, Cyril. Historically, Nigerian women have played a lot of roles in development of society. In fact, women play at least 3 kinds of roles: community role, productive role, and reproductive role. So it's like triple, while men play, in most cases, just community and productive role. And if you look at every sphere of life, whether in economy, the informal economy, the agric, or the formal economy, women play a lot of role. In politics, women play a lot of role. But I think that the need for the discussion of this type is because historically, and not only in Nigeria, the world, women have not been given their proper place in the scheme of things. And even though increasingly many countries are recognizing that if you want to develop very quickly, you need to give women their pride of place. That is why if you look at the global rating of Human Development Index, you see that the countries on top of the scale, the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, are those countries that have what we call gender-sensitive policies. They take care of their women, they make sure women participate in all aspects of life. They have very generous policies, because if you really want to make sure that women's contribution is acknowledged and harnessed in every society, there are things you need to do in terms of the laws, in terms of the policies and programs, in terms of the budget, and in terms of the practice.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. We go on to Priscilla Chapa. You've heard the first 2 contributors to this program, and I'm sure you're coming to us with a lot about what women have been able to do or not been able to do in national development over the years in Nigeria.
Well, I think that the first 2 speakers have already enumerated so much of what the women, not just Nigerian women, but women around the globe have done in terms of nation building. But particularly we are talking about Nigeria. And of course the theme for this year, for the International Women's Day, is about economic empowerment of women. And for me, I will look at it from that perspective. How have the women in Nigeria fared when it comes to the issues of economy? And I can tell you that the contributions of women in economic development in Nigeria has been quite tremendous, especially when you take from the rural perspective. The subsistent farming agriculture system in the country, at least 70% of them is done by Nigerian women, is done by women. But when it comes to, I like the angle where Dr. TV talked about the reproductive, the productive, and the rest. When you talk about the reproductive system, it is the woman. When you talk about the production, it is the woman. The only challenge that we have in this country is that the linkages of how women can harness their potentials have not really been tapped into, or have not been given that space for them to bring out their potentials. And let me give you a typical example. For instance, in businesses, there are so many women that when you go to the grassroots, the women that are striving, the economy that is striving at that level is being controlled by the rural women. But when it comes to the issue of large corporations, the women are nowhere to be found. And we begin to look at the factors. What makes it so thick that at the rural level, the women are doing very well? They are the breadwinners. In fact, yesterday I heard of another theory where apart from household, they said female-led, why am I forgetting? But we had a training yesterday on the SDGs. And one of the facilitators who is sitting down here with us, is just aside, says something about the contribution of women. And we're giving the different theories of women empowerment. And it amazes me that up to today, if you go to some houses today, we have women that are leaders. When I mean leaders, they have husbands in their homes, but they are the ones that are taking care of everything. And then you have the women that are either divorced, are either, widows, or are either something else, but are the ones that are taking care of the whole family. The whole family relies on this woman. And yet, the space for them to be able to bring out that their real potentials is not really there. Why is it not really there? It's not because they have not really advocated very well. It's not because they're not advocated very well, but because we are still operating that patriarchal system in this country. The space where men feel that, oh, who is this woman that she's doing very well and will come and take my space? That is the challenge that we still have.
Okay. All right. So at this point, let's go over to our Lagos studio and put the same question to Professor Shunaya and say, what's it that women have done over the years in Nigeria as we mark International Women's Day?
Thank you very much. Women have worked tirelessly to ensure that life goes on well with in their families. That has already been said. And by the way, I'd like to actually give a shout out to all Nigerian women, first and foremost, to acknowledge their resilience, to acknowledge their hard work. We do see what women do in order to provide for their families, for their children, working to make sure that there's food on the table, the families are clothed, and so on and so forth. I would like to say that that is not contested. Everybody is aware of the fact that women play a vital role in ensuring the smooth running of not only their families, but as has already been said as well, of the communities in which they live, they participate. So the question that we should really be talking about is what is keeping them out of the larger picture? You know, because it is not normal for a nation to almost completely exclude half of its population from participating in that nation building. And I was very happy that in the short introduction that was presented, we talked about those women, you know, the Mrs. Ransom Kutis and so on, who worked and not only in the you know, their family, local, very local level, but who did things in the society that called for boldness, you know, and they did demonstrate that boldness. And this year's theme is Be Bold for Change. And what I would really like to say is that we need to demonstrate more of that boldness, both on the side of the men as well as on the side of the women for change. But, you know, I don't want to go ahead of you in terms of the questions that will be coming later.
Fine, thanks so much. Yes, the theme is Be Bold for Change. What's that? Of what significance is that? What's the significance of this theme? Be bold for change.
It's quite significant, and it so coincides with the slogan for this late administration under the leadership of the APC, late administration of this government. Our slogan is change. And now the global theme for the International Women's Year is Be Bold for Change. So I think it's like the world is speaking to Nigeria. We need to wake up and address women issues seriously. Women have played their part. Women have worked tirelessly. Women have put in their very best. And yet, when it comes to governance, they are not remembered. We are appealing to Nigerian women and calling them with a loud voice that they should remain resilient, they should remain bold in the struggle.
Given all the odds, would you say that they've been somewhat timid all along?
I don't think Nigerian women are timid. They have put in their best. They have proved themselves worthy. I don't want a situation where they will, in a situation of where out of 100 people, one or two, there are bad eggs everywhere.
Okay.
But the women that have failed this country is nothing compared to the number of men that have failed this country. And for that, women should be acknowledged. For those that have done well and have played their part, it should be acknowledged.
Okay,
and I want to call on Nigerian women to remain bold in this struggle for change.
Now let's begin to look at some of the areas. For instance, access to education, employment, and political office. Well, good enough tonight on the panel we have at least two women politicians, and we'll find out from them the challenges, direct challenges they face. But first, let's go to Dr. Ibuzo. The access to education, employment. How much of that can we say Nigerian women have benefited from, given the fact that Nigeria is a signatory to so many of these conventions and protocols of the United Nations?
I think that is the point. Nigeria is a signatory to many of these protocols, but if you look at the statistics, you know, you find out that there is a gender disparity against girls in terms of access to education and completion of education. If you look at the literacy rate, you see that male literacy is higher than female literacy. If you look at level of employment, you see that you know, women are worse off than men. If you look at politics, you will see that, in fact, Nigeria is a very, very poor country in terms of women participation in politics. We know that globally, the date that men started voting in many countries is different from the day that women started voting. In France, it was about 75 years difference. In Britain, it was 51 years difference. But in Nigeria, it's about 56 years difference. Men started voting in 1923, but the women started voting in a general election in 1979. You'll be amazed that those people you recall those women, Gambo Sawaba, who fought for independence. During election, they are not allowed to vote. It's just as bad as that. And I think the point, and that point must be made, is that all over the world, people have realized that if we really want to develop in a modern society, women must be given their equal opportunity. In fact, the World Economic Forum predicts that the gender gap between men and women, if we continue business as usual, it will last till 2186. That is about 169 years for today. That is why the theme of this year says, be bold for change. What does that mean? It means that both men and women need to be catalysts for greater change. That we cannot continue business as usual. And Nigeria particularly is performing very, very poorly. If you look at the statistics, the global statistics, around 1995, the percentage of women in parliament globally was around 10%. But by 2013, it has risen to 20-something%. If you look at the African average, it's 20%. If you see countries like Rwanda, 60-something% of women. But Nigeria, 6%. It is not surprising why we are where we are, because countries that want to develop, to accelerate their development, prioritize the issues of women. Over the years, Nigeria has refused to prioritize the issues of women. That is why both men and women need to be bold. You talked about timidity. How do people become timid? The form of we need a different form of socialization. In the household, when the boy jumps on top of the table, the parents will comment, that is my son. But if a woman talks, say, keep quiet. Don't you know you are a woman? And if you know the kind of society we live with, high level of violence, high level of rape, high level of thuggery. And so, when people are socialized that way, women are socialized that way, it becomes difficult for them to compete along with men. So, we need to deconstruct our own notions of what masculinity is and of what femininity is. And I think that Nigeria has a lot to do in terms of gender equality and women empowerment.
Let me just take it from where Dr. Cyril has talked. I think the first thing that we need to do, if we must be bold, gender budgeting, which is very important. And I take it from the fact that this administration is rather unfortunate that they preach very much about gender equality. But if you take census of even women in appointed positions, right from the states to the national, it's nothing to write home about. And that is the truth about it. And we're talking about nation building. We're talking about change. How do we bring about change when at least 50% of the workforce, or let me say, the people that are in reproductive system are being pushed away? Now, in terms of even national budgets, take sense of all the ministries, both at the state and at the federal level. How many of them have gender disaggregated budgets? Or how many of them have plans that are really focused on issues of gender mainstreaming? Even the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, that is the umbrella of all women organizations or all women in the country, how much is it being budgeted for her own activities to take the issues of gender on board? When we are talking about being bold, we must be brought all around, because change must start from every angle, must be bottom up and not top down. So it is important that we look at it from that perspective. Now, I'd like to answer a question about access to education and employment. And I'm coming specifically from the point of view that I am also, I mean, somebody that deals with the issue of WASH, that is water, sanitation and hygiene. Go to the schools, at least every month, 7 days out of a week, the girls drop out of school. Who are having their who are having menstruations. They drop out of school because why? They don't have the basic amenities for them to enable them stay in the school. The toilets, there is no disaggregation between the girls and the boys. And of course the fear of intimidation when I'm menstruating. Why should I go to the school? That automatically puts them off. And you know, missing school every 7 days, every week, I mean every month, it's a lot. That brings, I mean, you cannot equate the girls with the boys ahead. Now, in terms of literacy, Otiva has already alluded that, or has already stated that, we have the literacy level of the men or the boys is much higher than that of the women, which is quite true, because my parents or our parents will feel that she's a young girl, she needs to be married off quickly so that she doesn't bring shame to the house. But the boy, of course, who cares? He needs he's my heir apparent, and so we need to train him so that he can inherit what we have. So unless we go back to the basis, if we want our country Nigeria to develop, and we want the women to be at the helm of affairs, we must go back to basics, we must go back to the drawing board and say, these are the plans that we have for issues of gender mainstreaming, for how we can build the capacity of starting from the rural to the national level. Otherwise, both in politics, in employment, and all this in decision making, we will continue to be lacking.
Okay, again, let's go to Lagos Center with Professor Shunaya, and then also look at how much access Nigerian women, in from the stage with their girls, they've had in education, employment, and politics over the years, with the knowledge that Nigeria has been a signatory to so many of these conventions and protocols.
Yes, I'm very happy that many of the issues are already being put on the table. Nigeria signs a lot of protocols and conventions and so on. It does not seem as if we have any problem with signing all of them. The issue is, are we going to implement them? And that is why this boldness that has been infused into this year's celebration of the International Women's Day is so crucial. We have to look at the things that are keeping us down in terms of maybe it's just cultural practices, you know, some traditions that we assume, oh, this is the way things have always been. Why do we need to change? The issue is about human capital. We have to ask ourselves, are women, girls, are they human beings or not? Like boys and men? If they are, and my standpoint is that we are, then why is it that they have to be constantly, you know, relegated? They have to be the ones who are not given the possibility of fulfilling all the potential that they have, just like the others. And indeed, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. We are not going anywhere as a nation if we do not address the issues that affect the lives of our girls and our women. You cannot marginalize, you cannot relegate to the background 50% of your population and expect to be a developed country. You know, of course, we compound it with all the, you know, issues of the corruption and things like that that are going on. But if we just focus on the issue of the girls and the women, how do you say half of my population has nothing to contribute, you know? So you want to fly as a bird with one wing? It's not going to happen. It's not going to get us anywhere. We can write all the agendas we want, 7-point agenda, to a vision 2020, whatever. We are not getting anywhere until we make sure that we deal with our girls and our women as full human beings, deserving of dignity and of respect.
Okay, let's look at another specific area. So, and we're staying with you in Lagos there. Yes, be bold for change. You were bold. You went into politics. You ran for the office of president. Give us, you know, an insight into what those obstacles could have been at the time you took the bold step to go into politics. Did you feel that you were contested in an atmosphere that provided equal opportunities, or did you feel like it was an uphill task?
Let me just say that a lot of people thought I was crazy, by the way, you know. But the fact of the matter is that, for one thing, I felt I was qualified. I knew I was qualified. And also it was important to show that all of us as Nigerians have an equal stake in this nation. I find it unacceptable that some people go around acting as though they have more of a right either to the resources of this country than others. No, they do not. And it is important for the rest of us to come out boldly and make that point clear to everyone. We all have equal rights and equal stake in Nigeria. Therefore, I looked around me. I was busy doing my work as a professor in the university and so on. But here I was looking around and seeing everything just going down, down, down. And it dawned on me that it's the politicians who determine the quality of our lives. They sit down and determine whether we are going to have good roads or not, good schools or not, and so on and so forth. And I felt if that's the case, then many of us, I don't want to sound like I'm putting them down, but we have to be honest. Where they have brought us so far is not where we would like to be. So if there is the quality of the kinds of people that are going into politics that's a problem, then, you know, we needed better quality people in politics. And that's still what I would like to say to people out there, whether they are women, whether they are men, people with integrity. This is your country, and you have a right to contribute to its development in the way that you want, rather than leave it to people who obviously are failing us.
Okay.
So,
all right, Professor Shunaya, at this point in time, our lines are already open, and the first calls coming through. We have Umar Farouk, who's calling in from Abuja. Umar Farouk.
Hello.
Yes, hello, Umar Farouk, go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm Umar Farouk, calling from Turkey, Abuja. Please, I first want to congratulate our guest that we are watching here right now. And I want to ask the women, our mothers, and our wives and sisters. I don't know whether there is any program that they used to do for them to enlighten our mothers or our sisters, for them to know they are important in this government and how are they going to achieve their goals. That's my question.
All right. Straightforward. We'll put it to our guests, and hopefully they'll provide the answers. And well, you had the last our first caller tonight. What is in place to enlighten the women about how important their position is in administration and in governance?
Thank you very much, Umar. I'm sure if you've been following programs and activities of women, particularly under the National Council of Women Societies and different women organizations, there has been so many workshops, so many programs that prepare and educate women on their roles in nation building. And Nigerian women are quite conversant. They know their roles. They've been playing their roles, even the traditional roles mothers have been playing in the homes, in the community, and the society at large, proves that Nigerian women and women all over have been living to their responsibility. So that is always in place, and we are still working on that, and the various women organizations are still, workshops are ongoing at all times. Even within this week, preparing for the International Women's Day, so many activities. My sister here, Priscilla, just told me she was coming from another program where they were enlightening and preparing women towards economic empowerment. So women programs, enlightening and preparing them towards their role in nation building has always been there, and it will always continue. But we expect that government should realize that the large population, the most productive population of women, which is over 50%, that has been neglected, will certainly not take us towards that nation building, towards that true nation building that we are all yearning for.
Okay.
Because it's lopsided.
All right, we'll still go back to the phones. We have Ibrahim calling in from Abuja here. Ibrahim, go ahead. Hello, Ibrahim. Okay, well, we'll just have to go on because we have so many issues to talk about. Well, we just heard Professor Shunaya from our Lagos studio talk about why she took the bold step. I know that apart from being a one-time deputy governor of Plateau State, you also at one point ran for governor, and you took that bold step. So how was it like?
Well, again, it's the same story, but it's most unfortunate that Nigerians still haven't got it right by refusing to allow a free and fair election, or allowing women, when they win election, to take their rightful place. In my own case, apart from the boldness, I had full support from both the men and the women. The elders of the state stood by me. They saw my performance as deputy governor, and they were not satisfied with what the governor was running the state, and they openly encouraged me to take the bold step and move in for the contesting for the governorship election, which I did. And I thank God that my husband getting the support from the home front was very, very important. And all through my political life, my husband has always been there, giving me the necessary support. And once you get that support from the home front, you get stronger. And I was bold enough, and I can live to remember and to thank the good people of Plateau State for the full support they gave me and for the success and overwhelming campaign. Unfortunately, things went the way it went.
All right, we'll still return to you because you have also played other roles in governance. But Dr. Ibuzo, in 2015, we saw more women come into the political space. And even though we still admit that we're way
Did
below.
you say we saw more women?
Well, we saw more women show interest.
Okay.
Yes, we saw more women show more interest in coming into the political space. How would you assess their participation?
Well, like I said earlier, you know, women participation has not been good in Nigeria. It has been very, very poor in Nigeria. And for many other countries in the past 10 to 15 years, there has been a lot of changes, positive changes, increased participation of women. In fact, all over the world, there is even United Nations Resolution 1325, you know, that talked about participation of women even during times of crisis. Like now, we are coming out from Boko Haram, we are coming out from insurgency, we are coming out from militancy in the Niger Delta region. If you want peace process to be accelerated, what you need is to have heavy involvement of women. But what we've seen in Nigeria is that despite the fact that women are just like the question that Umaru asked, it's not that women are not aware of their roles. We must also note that there is a continuum from awareness to consciousness to organizing for change. And if you are just aware, but you are not conscious, you will not take up action. And if you are not conscious, you will not be able to move to the last level, which will make you to organize for change. And so the challenge is that there are a lot of blockages to women's participation, whether in terms of, first, the socialization that boys and girls have, which make boys more suited to participation in politics in a violent environment, you know, or in terms of economy. Women are less economically endowed than men because of a lot of reasons, including stereotype. That, in fact, it's amazing that, you know, in those days, crops that are cash crops that you sell and make money are main crops. Is the one that you eat at home that women farm. So from the beginning, you know, women have no access to economic empowerment. And professions, you know, male professions are more lucrative than, so that economic strangulation, you know, helps to put women where they are. And there are also, you know, stereotypes, behavior, you know, harmful traditional practices, you know, and the fact that for some people, they cannot imagine that a woman will be their governor, you know. So all of these, you know, have affected the participation of women. And I think that is why there is this slogan of the be bold for change. Yeah. Being bold requires not only boldness from women, but boldness from men. For men to stand up for women. Okay. For men to stand up to end violence against women. For men to stand up to stop abuse. For men to show up in any circumstance when you see a woman being abused. Because I think the point to make is that women participation or women empowerment is not favor done to women. Because when women are empowered and they participate, you know who benefits? Society as a whole. So if we really want to develop this country, we must have a mental reconstruction of the way we look at women. If you see, even from advertisement, from nursery rhyme, you know, the stereotypes are there. I remember my daughter, when it was in primary school, they brought her script, and she got everything except one. I looked at the one she got wrong. We're living in Lagos that time. They say, who cooks your food? You know?
Right.
And the correct answer is supposed to be mother. And we have a younger sister who was staying with us. So she wrote Sister Ife. And because of that, they marked it wrong. Because in the conception of the curriculum, is the woman that cooks the food. And it's reinforced by religion. You know? And you'll be shocked to know that if you look through the scriptures, through the Bible, for instance, there's only one place where they talk about nurturing of children. And the role was given to fathers in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. So it is patriarchal interpretation of religion. And so all of this, there is patriarchy. Make sure that women are put down and they cannot participate in politics. They are discriminated against in tasks. They are discriminated against everywhere. When they started voting, men were voting, women were not allowed to vote. So there is need. And you know, the point is really that this is 21st century. So we must behave like 21st century people. Those old notions that men are the breadwinners is gone. But people are still living as if that notion is still there.
All right, let's return to the phones. I believe we have a Vincent who's calling in from Jos. Vincent, if you're there, go ahead with a question or comment. Vincent.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Vincent.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
My contribution is, we're talking about women development in Nigeria. And women have contributed a lot to this country. But I want to put my question to the deputy governor because he is from Jos. In terms of politics, sometimes when during politics era and they are trying to campaign on all around, sometimes we do see them giving women salt, clothes, you know, giving a lot of gifts to women. And sometimes they could just put 2 sewing machines on the TV and bring TV and televise it and that is gone. So how do they want women to be developed from that kind of attitude? So now they are saying boldness and change. So, but I think even at this point, most of those women who are opportune to lead other women need to change their characters and their attitude as well. Because when you give somebody a sewing machine, you brought 2 sewing machines, you're televising it and say you're empowering women. So how do you want the women to be told? So women need to organize them and reorientate their mind and make them bold. Not giving them those peanuts, patch donut gifts that are not going to empower the women in Nigeria. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Vincent. Well,
thank you very much, Vincent. I heard what your contribution, and it seems you are against women being given things like sewing machine, clothes. I mean, if women are trained, we have different training, economic empowerment training for women. If women are trained in sewing, after you train them, you should be able to give them something that they will be able to start that business. And it's a kind of encouragement to give them a starting point in that business. So you cannot train somebody and wouldn't give them the capital or something to take off. It's like a take-off grant for them to start something. And I feel for the women, any small thing you give them to help them in their economic activities, they always perform very well. It multiplies within a very short time. I can give you an example during the Better Life program. The loans that was given to women cooperative groups, I was one of the coordinators in my local government, and I was able to register 150 women cooperative groups. And these women were given soft loan through the People's Bank and the UBA. And about 98–99% of all those that got that loan were empowered because they were able to pay back, and it really changed their life. But give that type of loan, even if it is 50,000 for a man, they will go and squander it. They will use it either to marry another wife or to spend it on drinking or another kind of. It will never be invested in the family. But anything that improves the life of a woman, it has a multiplier effect on the family and the society at large. So, Vincent, I hope you realize that it is a good gesture to help give the women a takeoff to improve their economic status.
All right, let's come to Priscilla Chakpa on this matter of seeing what many might term at least, a small encouragement of more interest by women in taking part in politics in the last 2 years. How would you rate that? Do you think, okay?
Well, I will go back to 2007, not just the last 2 years. In 2007, what we saw, because we were really in the field, 2007, 2011, we had more women participation in politics than in 2015 than what we saw. And the quality of women that came out in 2007, 2011 were real women that knew what they wanted and why they were at. They had their manifestos and they were ready to go out there to make their impact felt. Unfortunately, for some of the reasons that had already been stated, economic reasons, for thuggery, for all kinds of things that happened, even within the political party themselves, there was no internal party democracy. And therefore, some of those things made a lot of women to drop out. But by and large, the last 2 years witnessed a lot of, will I say, aggressive campaign that was hinged on thuggery. And most of the times these women, are mothers. No matter how old a woman is, and no matter how old the son is, a woman will not want to see see the son shed blood, or will not want to see blood shedded. And so because of that reason, most of the women could not go into this kind of thuggery that took place in the last election. And I can tell you, for some of us that we are observers, what we saw were really, really scary. And for some of the women that were out there, for people like her, we are really, really scared of her. And every day, at least every week, I was sending her some messages to encourage her, to tell her, look, we are here, we are praying for you. God will do it for you. God will do it for you. But no matter what happens, don't relent, because we know that the God we are serving is much, much better. Unless we go back to the drawing board about the issues of this thuggery, about the issues of money politics, because those were the things that took the center stage. Thuggery, money politics, and above all, there has not been anything like internal party democracy. Even the parties that claim that they have the issues of women at heart, indeed, we have not seen it happen. During the campaigns, we engaged a lot of the political parties, and we were asking specifically, tell us what is your manifestos that has to do, what programs do you have that has to do with women or the youth? And of course, so many of them came out, it was very interesting that they will put it on slides and tell us on their map, and they will be reading it for us. These are the programs that we have for women. Now, where are those programs?
Okay, at this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll begin to look at how we can turn the tables around and just how much this theme, being bold for change, can take place. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us, Women in National Development. Let's start off this segment by going straight to our Lagos Network Center and putting this to Professor Shunaya, who's with us. Well, how do we begin to turn the tide? Seeing that there are so many factors that have been given as responsible for the state women, particularly Nigerian women, are in. And some of these factors are cultural factors, which may be extremely difficult to begin to change. So how do you now begin to guarantee easy access to education, access to political office, given the space, given, you know, opportunities in the political space? Is it a question of just legislation, or how do we begin to turn it around?
I'd like to refer to the first question that was asked, where the caller was asking what kinds of programs women themselves were organizing to conscientize fellow women. And I think that that might be missing the point if the conception is that it is a task for women alone. It is not a task for women alone. All of us must do this work, and it must start from every home. It must be practiced in every school. It has been said already that the way in which children are socialized, the boys and the girls, is different. We must start to ensure that in the homes there is equality. So that's a way, one of the ways in which we can begin. And I'd just like to talk about the political parties themselves. I was at a meeting last week in Abuja where we women were saying we must begin to see changes in the organization of the political parties themselves. There is no level playing ground. Indeed, there were many women who contested, for different positions within the party during the primaries, and then somebody would just come, one of the big people in the party would say, okay, we'll find something else for you. It's this other person. We would like to fill that position, or to field for that position. Women must begin to refuse such things. We should just not accept it. And I even went as far as telling the women, look, if your party does not give you a level playing ground to compete at the same level with the men, then change your party. I don't see what the difficulty is in doing that. We must begin to really take those bold steps. But you did mention legislation, and I believe that that is important. Legislation, the gender bill is still there. It has not been passed. When are we going to ensure, for instance, that young girls, 12, 13, are not given away in marriage to people who are old enough to be their grandfathers? So there must be some legislation, definitely. But there must be also action, civil action, action from individuals, action from civil society organizations, actions even within our communities.
All right. There are also, back here in Abuja, there are also traditional practices as well, which people have spoken out against. And again, the question of the low level of participation in politics. Some countries have put in legislation. Would you suggest that for Nigeria?
Definitely. We call ourselves the giant of Africa, and yet so many African countries have put this legislation in place. There are certain positions that are carved out just for women to contest among themselves. That is fair enough. And that is why we have more women participation in such countries. But back here in Nigeria, we don't have that legislation. We don't have, the starting point is just even the structure of the political parties. The National Working Committee of virtually all the political parties, out of all the positions occupied, we have only one woman, one lone voice, only the position of a national woman leader that is occupied by a woman. The national chairman, the vice national chairman, the zonal chairman, all through. Amen. You have only one woman, one voice, that if she wants to raise anything, they will all shout on her. So where's the democracy? And we also know that women occupied virtually more than 50% of the population, and they are the most productive population, and yet their voices are not heard. They are not given that chance. They are not given that fairness to adequately participate and let their voice be heard. Until the structure of our political parties is seen to be a little bit gender sensitive, to make sure that there's a fair balance, at least among the 6 zonal chairmen. Let's have, even if it is 3 to 4.
Okay.
Well, but for us to have all the positions occupied by men and only the national woman leader, and the same at the state level and the same at the local government, only the position of a woman leader is occupied by a woman.
We'll return to that in a moment, national woman leader or perhaps treasurer sometimes. We have another caller from Akwa Ibom. Just go ahead and introduce yourself and ask your question or make your comment. From Akwa Ibom, hello. Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, your name is on the screen, so go ahead.
I like your program very well. My name is I'm calling from. Yes. The mama, like the mama speak, then I pray that. Hello.
We're hearing you.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Then I pray that God will make a way.
Amen.
For them to lead this country.
Okay, fine. Thank you. All right. Well, he has prayers there. But Dr. Eguzo, you would recommend legislation as well?
You know, the problem is complex. It's a long period, and it requires to be addressed in several areas. I would recommend at least 4 areas where it needs to be addressed. First is legislation, law. Constitution first. The Nigerian constitution discriminates against women. Yes. If you give me time, I will tell you the areas.
All right.
It discriminates against women. Let me just give you an instance.
Yes.
The Nigerian constitution confers on the man the ability to confer citizenship on the spouse. It doesn't confer it on the Nigerian woman. So, you know, they will tell you that when it's he, it means he or she. But when they want to discriminate against women in the 1999 constitution, they will state that for this section, we are talking about a woman. For instance, the section where they say any woman any girl who is married shall be deemed to be of age. It's not any person. So the constitution discriminates against women. So and what many other African countries have done is to put affirmative action in the constitution that a certain percentage, if you put in the constitution, and there is an appointment without following it, that appointment is null and void. But what we see is that it's in the policy. Gender policy says that 35% of appointments should be women, but it's not followed. By all governments is returned to civil rule. So the first is law, the second is policies and programs, and they should be implemented. And the third is budget, money. You need to devote money to women issues. And then the fourth is practice. The practice is more difficult to deal with, but there are ways to deal with practice. You know, and I think that is one problem, not only in the women issues, that is one problem in Nigeria. If we have a problem, instead of dealing with it, we wish that one day it will go away. And you know, the level of knowledge in the world today is so high that for every conceivable problem in this world, there is a solution. There is a way to deal with it. There is a theory to deal with it. There is a practice to deal with it. So the thing is just to follow. And so those are those 4 areas. And then you also ask the question of the how. The how, first, is education. Education is an enabler. Education enables all other rights. So girl-child education, there has to be proper focus. And like she talked about, there are ways that there are things that you can do to promote girl-child education. And it's known, it's not new. It's not rocket science. So the thing is the leadership, the commitment, and the will to do it. Second is economic empowerment. And ways of economic empowerment are also known. What you can do to make sure that women have access to land, they have access to finance, and they have access to economic opportunities. There are all range of programs that can be put in place for this to happen. Okay. And the third is socialization. And this involves all of us.
All right. I'll ask you to hold on a while. Socialization, I'll return to that. But let's try and take this call from Jos. Ibrahim, who's calling in. Hello, Ibrahim.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Ibrahim, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Okay, my name is Ibrahim. I'm calling from Jos. Cyril, I liked your program, and I'm greeting our mom who is sitting beside you, Mrs. Pauline. About the women issue, in Plateau, we give her a maximum support that she deserves. But you know how the political issue in Nigeria. So we don't know what happened. We voted for her, but at the end, we just saw that she lost the election. And even the second, hello?
Yeah, go ahead. We're listening. Oh dear, we lost that. Well, of course, he was referring to, issues of politics there and how women fare when they're running for political office. But let me come back to you, Dr. Ibuza. Socialization that you talked about.
I talked about education, economic empowerment, socialization. That the way we bring up our children has to change. In fact, one research recently, which was conducted by Voices for Change, indicated that men are actually suffering. You know, young men are going through crisis of being brought up that you are the breadwinner and you get married to a lady who is earning more than you. So they are having crisis of being able to perform the role that society expects of them. And it can be dangerous for even the health of men. And then finally is the question of political empowerment. Okay. And the point I'm making is that there are clear ways for these things to be done. But in the Nigerian situation, there are a lot of blockages. And I think that is one program that we are involved with now, Partnership to Engage, Reform and Learn, is looking at how do we unblock these blockages, which are in the laws, which are in the policies, which are in the budget. What kind of strategic communication can we give, not only to women, but to men, so that society will be changed for better? Men are socialized and they are doing a lot of harmful things. For instance, she talked about the fact that the girl child, can be married off, and the boy child, nobody cares. So a parent will have a girl child and protect the girl child and allow the boy child to go and have premarital sex and get all kinds of diseases. So risky behavior. Okay. So socialization, everything in society. What baffles me is that what needs to be done in all these areas is known, but we behave as if we can just wish away this problem. So the media, government, citizens need to really come together and see the way to deal with these problems.
Okay, we have from Kano, Ishak calling in from Kano. Hello.
Yes, my contribution with regard to this issue, in fact, is very plenty, but I think I can just say a little bit now. Let me just start from where our mommy who seated down close to you there talked about the issue of they have a lot of programs which they have been executed in order to develop the women in Nigeria. And if I may ask, the program that they have been executed, is it only in urban area or rural area? But what we also observe here is that most of the activities of women development is only based on urban area, but it doesn't relate to rural area. And we also discover that there is a lot of women that are not educated in rural area, which they need to pass information to them. And if this information is passing, in which way are they going to pass information to them? Another thing again, we have a lot of problems of economy in our country, which women need to participate a lot. And women contribute, in fact, almost 80% to the life of everybody in this world. But they don't play a role in regard to economic development. That now pass economic orientation that can give a woman that can earn a little thing before the government will also assist them. I have one school very close to me here in Jamble, in Kano, which called adult education. In fact, I was so fascinated if I can see a lot of women that are being trained in issue of education. I think these are some of the things that women being in Abuja supposed to look around so many community or pass some things that they can now make the women to be educated. They cannot stay there in Abuja and trying to say that they're trying to make women to be developed or not their right. Coming down to the issue of politics, in fact, they are left behind, and I think it is also their fault again because there was no critical information passing to them for women to know their rights. They are our mother, and there was no way we can leave them. In fact, I am a man, but in the absence of my father, my mother is so close to me. I can tell you right now, my father wasn't alive, but my mother, she was the one taking care of me. In fact, I'm so happy for me to have my mother alive, because she really takes care of me. And I think this development should also pass to the local community so that they have a lot of work down there which they can assist their children so that they should know what is good for the nation and what is wrong for the nation. That is my contribution. And now we are now in the era of 21st century now, which go with computer knowledge. But what are the factors for them to play, not even in the urban, but not even the rural, but the urban area, how they do play for them to know about all this.
All right. Thank you very much, Isaac. Well, his observation is quite straightforward. He thinks that the women in the rural areas are not getting the message the urban women are getting.
Let me just say that what he has said is not true. A lot of programs are going on in the rural areas that both young girls, uneducated women, and literate women from that level are also participating. Perhaps what you should say is that maybe there's a depth of data, statistics to report adequately about what is happening in the rural areas. But to say that nothing is happening in the rural areas is not right. There are several programs that are going on, from civil society organizations to government to all other stakeholders. Philanthropies that are going on, both in the area of economic empowerment. We have the likes of Tony Elumune, we have the likes of the Justice and Peace Development Commission of the Catholic Church. We have the Federation of Muslim Women Association, and I can go on and on and on and continue to mention them. And then the civil society organizations, we are not just operating in the city centers, but right in the rural areas. So a lot of women are benefiting from the rural areas about this program. And even enlightenment campaigns are going there, leadership roles. They are being trained, the young girls from even the secondary schools. Like now we have a project that is targeting about 16,000 youth. And these are both girls and women. I mean both girls and boys. And of course the issues of computer and ITC. We are focusing on that. And we are targeting right from not the schools that are in the city center, but we are targeting the rural schools where they don't have access to these issues. Because at the end of the day, for instance, now JAM has said that for you to sit for JAM, you must use ICT. Computer. You must use computer. And how many schools do have computer. So for us, that is an issue. And so there are so many programs that are going on there. I'll leave the issue of the politics for my sister to address.
Well,
in fact, in addition to what my sister has just said, the Future Assured program of the wife of the PET program of the wife of the president, Haja Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, she has also appealed and tasked all wives of governors to ensure that this program gets down to the grassroots. And wives of governors are doing same. They are organizing programs with wives of chairmen of local governments to properly educate women at the grassroots on economic empowerment, on their contribution to nation building. Even yesterday, we were in Kogi. The wife of the governor of Kogi invited us, and I went to address the rural women, the wives of chairmen of local governments, on their role in nation building.
Okay.
So a lot is going on at the grassroots.
All right, back to the phones. Another call from Jos. Awal from Jos. Hello, Awal. Hello, Awal.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Awal. Go on.
Please, I want to make a contribution on the issue of women in politics. How I wish you invited an Islamic cleric there. An Islamic cleric. Because I knew in Kano there are a lot of women who have contested in seats. Hello?
Yes, go on.
But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, in our mosque, they will start preaching, we shouldn't vote for a woman. A woman is not able to hold the political seat.
Yes, Awal, go ahead. Okay, well, it looks like we lost that call from Awal, but, well, he's raising another angle there. He's talking about inhibitions. Some might be religious. And that's why I'd like to go back to the issues Dr. Ibuzo raised earlier on, particularly the one to do with socialization. And I'm going to bring this to Professor Shunaya. You see, I believe that under socialization, we would also classify inhibitions that have to do with traditions, tradition and culture. And as you know, coming against traditional practices can be pretty tough. How, for instance, are we going to go through this issue of women no longer seen as responsible for the deaths of their husbands? Certain practices I do know of in this country where widows are forced to shave their hair, they're forced to drink the water in which the corpse of their husbands have been washed, just to prove that they are not witches. How do you stand against such traditions?
Oh, you are raising very, very important issues. These are really entrenched in many of our societies. But I do agree with Mr. Otivi. It has to do with education. And I don't think it's only formal education, because we do know people who are schooled, who have gone to school formally, who still continue to practice these things. I believe that they should be brought into the open. And maybe a program like yours could address these issues consistently for us. Because you are very, very right. How can we in the 21st century continue to hold every woman responsible for the death of her husband and subject her to these inhuman treatments. Indeed, apart from, you know, shaving the hair, drinking the water with which the corpse had been bathed and so on, which I believe should be legislated against, by the way, because we can protect our women by making the appropriate laws. You also have, you know, the sufferings from the family of the man. We see cases where when the man dies, the family comes and just cuts away every single thing in the house. And if the house belongs to the family, you know, to the husband and wife, they just chuck out the woman, you know, and say, you know, we want to take our son's house. Bringing these things to the fore, educating ourselves about them, talking about best practices that lead to development all around the world will help us. And an example I like to give is the fact that it's not as if we ourselves have not changed our practices before. So we should remember that, look, there was a time when twins used to be killed in this country. But we're not killing twins anymore. So it's not as if there's something that says our traditions must never change. As things develop, as we engage with these issues in a rational manner, we can discern that certain things should no longer continue to hold sway. And I believe that we must really engage with one another on these issues. And at every point, the young man who called just now, I'm sorry, I don't even know if he's young or not, was talking about some religious issues. We need to engage our religious authorities and say, let's look at these matters and address them in our churches, in our mosques, and also in our various communities.
Okay, and I think we can take just one more call now. This is coming from Warri, and it's Isaac on the line from Warri. Hello, Isaac. Hello, Isaac.
Yes, it's a pleasure contributing to this topic. When we talk of change, before women can be more recognized or encouraged, as suggested by the Prof. Professor Sonaya. Yes, but I think such change has to start with humility, integrity, and fear of God at heart from our women, who are in high authority, in order to sell themselves more for recognition. When you look at some Nigerian women in position of authority, you will see arrogance, you will see corruption, and even unreachable. They become unreachable when they are in position of authority. Then, even in such position, the men folk, there you find some who are responsible, and they fear, what is Antichrist. The Bible says, by their fruits we shall know them.
All right, Isaac, that's it. Well, I'm sure that you've raised a... Well,
I don't know whether Isaac is talking about Nigeria.
Well,
about another country.
All right.
We need integrity, humility, and fear of God from both men and women.
Exactly.
And I don't think that his assertion that women in position of authority display arrogance and corruption can be supported with statistics and facts.
All right.
the number of men that we've seen money discovered in their septic tanks. I don't see how many women those kinds of money have been discovered. So I think that, you know, we should know that this point we are making is not competition between men and women. It's not also to say that the women are the one who will solve the problem. And I also want to put it that it's not even to say that the problem is caused by men. You know, it's caused by society. Socialization. It begins from socialization. But I think the point that we must all note is that in this 21st century, we cannot live the old way. You know, I come from a place, I'm an Urobo from Delta State, and we grew up with the notion that if a woman gets pregnant and is not circumcised, during delivery, the moment the head touches the clitoris, the child will die. That is the notion. But today we know it's not true. But even though that we know, like Prof said, there are still educated people today who circumcise their daughters. So boldness, be bold for change, is to say that was the tradition, but me, I'm not circumcising my daughter. Is to say, you know, boldness is to say, look, I'm a man, I'm not a coward. It's cowards that beat women. You know, boldness is to say, look, all those harmful traditional practices, it will not happen in my family. Whenever I am in position, I will stop it. Boldness is for men to get involved. There are many situations where just my stopping. I've seen situations where, you know, there is a car accident between a man and a woman, and you can see that the man is almost wanting to slap the woman. You know, it happens every day. I will just park my car. Thank God, God has given me height. Just appear, or just appearing at the side to say, what is the problem? Everybody will just come. So men must step in to know that the 21st century we are in, and we should not live a society that is worse for our daughters than we met. And it's a collective responsibility. The media must also change this idea of portraying women as objects of pleasure. You know, advertisement must change. You know, you are advertising a product, the girls will not participate in it, all the men fully dressed, the girls skimpily dressed and milling around the man consuming the product. It doesn't make sense. So there are a lot of things that needs to be done. And the point I'm making is really that what needs to be done in all of those things are known. Starting from curriculum, changing the curriculum, changing the nursery rhyme, mother in the kitchen cooking rice, father in the parlor reading or watching TV. No. Those things, because you ingrain them in their own consciousness. And it's not good for society. No person can clap with one hand. Any society that ignores 50% of its population cannot grow.
Well, we've seen societies where women, and even among Nigerians as well, Nigerian women have attained heights in an international community. And the question is, how do we begin to encourage more women to come out and take this bold step and stand up for issues that affect their rights?
Well, first and foremost, I think that it has to start with the oneself. You must be, first and foremost, as a woman, you must be confident of yourself and what you can do. And secondly, we have seen women of recent even in Nigeria. Our sister who came out was bold enough to go and contest. We have Amina Mohammed, who has now been made the UN Deputy Secretary General for the first time in the history of Africa, that we have a woman, and that woman is from Nigeria. But because she has played her card very well, and because she is not somebody that you can just push aside, because she knows her onions, because she knows what she wants, because she's intelligent, because she's knowledgeable about what you want. We have several of such women that are out there. What Nigerians need to do, and indeed our governments, both from the local to the state to the national level, needs to identify such women and bring them out. Because there's a saying that if you don't go out to do the best of your dance, nobody will dance it for you. And so if we want our women to be really out there and shining, and indeed they have been there. We have the likes of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and so many of them that have been there, and they have done incredibly well. We need to encourage both the young ones that are coming up, place them in strategic places, give them some kind of responsibility. From there, you begin to know whether these women can really strive. But we strongly believe that they can do it. So it's a matter of molding them, catch them young, bring them up, give them that responsibility to begin to take. And of course, give them free hand, because when you interact with some of the women, especially these young girls, you'll be so amazed at the kind of knowledge that they have. But because there is not that space enough for them to be able to air out and showcase the talents that they have, I think it's very important that our leaders, our government, and even the women that have been there should serve as a kind of mentors to the young ones that are coming up.
Okay, and that's one issue we'll take to Professor Shunaya in Lagos Center. She makes her closing comments: mentorship, capacity building for the Nigerian woman.
That actually women should by themselves come out. They must recognize that this is a duty that they owe their nation. Normally in a home, you don't have to plead and beg and encourage before the woman comes out to do, to perform her duties, to make her contributions to her own home. And I believe it should be the same for the society, for the country. So I'm encouraging women to begin to see this as a responsibility that we owe. We cannot sit down and watch our nation go to the dogs. It is our duty. We owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our children, we owe it to our nation. So let us realize that, and then let us step out in boldness. And as we do that, the girls coming behind us, they will take encouragement for that. They'll see from that. They'll see that, oh, this is possible. This is a role that I can play in the society. I can contribute meaningfully to the development of my country. I think that's going to be very important for us.
All right, thank you very much. And the same issues we'll put to you, Mrs. Pauline Talon, as you make your closing comments on this: capacity building, mentoring. You, apart from even being in politics, you've also been in appointive position as a minister in this country, as a federal republic. So what is there to mentor more women to rise to such heights?
Thank you very much, Cyril. It is a collective responsibility, and it's a clearing call to all women that this is a responsibility bestowed on us. And even when you look at the role of women and our role in nation building is divine, because God created the woman as a helpmate. He saw that the man could not do it without the woman. So any society that tries to push the woman from playing that role is even going against the law of creation. And since God created the woman to play that role as a helpmate, not just in the home, but the society as a whole, we must live up to that responsibility. I make it bold to call on all Nigerian women and the women at large in the whole world, seeing the global team telling us to be bold, not just women, but the men and the women. The country as a whole must be bold to accept change, to allow change in order to move forward. We can only move forward if we work hand in hand. If the men and the women work together, we are not fighting the men. We are not in competition with the men. We are simply helpmates. And so will it be. May God inspire our leaders, touch their hearts to realize that women are not in competition with them. Women are simply calling for the right to play our rightful role as helpmates in nation building.
By 2050, it's a long way ahead. Can we say we'll see a situation where, an environment where we'll have more or less a 50-50, you know?
Well, the World Economic Forum predicts that at present rate, we will not get parity by 2050. Oh. That, as a matter of fact, it will be 2186.
Yeah, you said that before.
That is 169 years from now. I think that is why we must scale up everything. I think one part of boldness is to scale up everything. A lot of capacity building and mentoring is going on. The Nigerian Women Trust Fund is doing mentoring. Many organizations are doing mentoring. Our own center LSD, we are doing capacity building, mentoring of women. But we need to scale up. And this is where I want to call on men. We cannot leave this as women. As leaders, men need to take responsibility by acting as catalyst to speed up the process of development so that we will not wait 169 years for our daughters to have a world where they can say they are comfortable, there is a enabling environment, there is equal opportunities for them.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And as a parting shot, we would like to see many more civil society organizations out there pushing the boldness that is required.
The civil society organizations have always been doing that. They're still doing it. They will continue to do it. Because if nothing else, the civil society can say it the way it is, from the grassroots to the international level. They present the issues as they see it, because in the first place, that is the role of the civil society to play. So for us as civil society organization, and indeed the women-led civil society organizations, this is the time for them to become even more bold to say it, to state it as it is about women in nation development and nation building. Okay, and so it is on that note we'll leave it. I always say this, that no one program can take care of all the issues on any topic. So we'll leave it here for this particular program. At some other point in time, we'll look to discussing the issues of women in national development once again. But for now, I would like to say a very big thank you to all our guests. Let us say thank you very much to Professor Oluremi Shunaya, who ran for presidency on the platform of COA Party. And as she corrected us earlier on, he used to be the National Publicity Secretary of COA Party. Professor Shunaya, it's been interesting having you with us. We thank you for your presence on this program.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Right. And I'd like to say thank you very much to Mrs. Pauline Talon, former Deputy Governor of Plateau State, We didn't have so many calls from Plateau State, from Jos today. Would like to think that had something to do with your presence here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And Dr. Otibe Egbuzo, it's always a pleasure to have you join us on discussions. And yes, I made a note of that. At least you had one response from Wari. So, okay. And,
not the carry last.
Yeah, as they say. Okay, and thank you very much, Priscilla Achakwa, Executive Director of Women Environmental Program. We thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And we also say thank you to you for being part of this program. Next week we'll reach you again on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.
Our programs are getting better and fresher. And it's because we are thinking about you. NTA, it's all about you.
NTA Language.
Jama'a masu kallon labaran NTA Hausa barkanmu da warhaka. Ni ne.
Ekukalelo de yin wise kudeya.
Igbo murum kachano.
Broadcasting in the language you understand better. Our programs.
I should know how to lie man, get line man.